My name is Aaron Perry. I battled with drug and alcohol addiction for the majority of my life. My addiction to substances got to the point in my life where it became completely unmanageable. I began to lose everything in my life that was important to me, starting with my relationships, my friends, my job, my family, my finances, my home, almost everything that I held dear. And it got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And I began to reach the point of where I realized I wasn't in control, and I gave up. I did turn to God in that moment of just essentially rock bottom, no longer even wanting to live. So the first step in my recovery was while I was still actively using, I went to a meeting. I was here at Black Rock. I went to a group called Living Free, Steps to Freedom for Men. And I walked in there and I unloaded on the group about the truth of what was actually going on. And it was the first time I had ever really done that. I never realized that there were people in a room like that, just like me, that were going through similar situations. And they didn't look at me with judgment, they understood. And they were there to support me. And I could let down this great wall of lies that I had been living behind for so long, and it was true freedom. And it felt good to be able to do that. So as I started attending meetings, God would begin to work in my life and piece me together one step at a time. And I just had to keep showing up. I had to keep doing the work. I had to surrender to His will in my life and obey Him, what He was asking me to do. And a lot of the times that meant just encouraging other men in the group, helping others that were going through something similar to what I was going through. One of the things I realized early on in my recovery is I felt really comfortable at Black Rock. Being there at the meetings was my safe place, and I wanted more. And so that meant other opportunities to be at the church. And so I started seeking out all kinds of opportunities to be at the church. That meant volunteering as like a parent with Stockade at the time, with my son, my daughter. And that led to me forming an even closer bond with my son and a restored relationship, my kids, my family. When COVID hit, my group was down, and church stopped meeting, and that was a problem for me because this was my happy place. I needed to be at church, and so I was asked ultimately to lead a backyard church, and which was an incredible honor and something I personally just didn't feel qualified for, but in obedience, I did it, and I went with it. I felt that God was just willing to meet me wherever I was at. He took me in whatever I had to offer, and He was going to use me. I just had to keep obeying. For me and for a lot of guys early on in recovery, I was really ashamed, and I carried that, and I was embarrassed about how I was living. But I would get to a point where my story and my experiences and everything that I did and was doing, while it was some bad stuff, it ended up becoming something, my recovery from it and what God did through it ended up becoming the best thing about me. So I heard this calling, starting from within the group, being there each week, that God wanted to use my experiences and my struggles with addiction to help others. And it began with, simple encouragements within the group, helping other guys who maybe were just starting out their day one, right, or their month one, and I was a little further along with them. And I could speak to it a little bit of what I went through. So today I'm sitting here, I'm in my 5th year of sobriety, and I can tell you, just from my perspective, I have more joy, more fulfillment, more peace, more purpose than I ever did before. And it wasn't until I stopped following my own will and started following God's plan in my life that I started experiencing that. When I first met the guys from the mission, I gained just tremendous perspective from them, comparing my own story to theirs and just knowing that I had a lot to learn even from them, and I had a lot to offer them too. And I was passionate about that, about helping above and beyond just the confines of my own group, that there were other people out there in the community that needed help. While all that was happening, the serving and the meetings and working with the guys at the mission, something else pretty cool had happened. I had been promoted at work. But it was something that I felt God tugging on for a while. While I do feel like it was a blessing from Him, I do feel like He ultimately did ask me to walk away from it, because the job, I felt, had become more of my identity than the things that were at the center of my life, God and serving others. And ultimately I did walk away from it in December of this past year. While all that was happening, God was piecing things together with both my Living Free group. The group was able to come together unified with the guys from the mission, the guys from my Living Free group, all together in the same building, in the same room. And the first meeting, we had 3 times more guys in attendance at that meeting than we ever saw before. It was an absolutely incredible thing to be a part of. It was incredible to see the work God was doing, using me, using the group to spread this message of restoration, forgiveness, love, and fulfillment, redemption in Christ. And it's something I'll just continue doing.